They told me the MV Scarred's Horizon was a research vessel. That's the first lie. The job offer came in the mail, yes. Mail. Who the hell even sends job offers by post anymore? No phone number, no email address, just a single, folded letter printed on heavy stock paper, with only 3 lines typed. Electronic Systems Technician, night watch required. MV Scarred's Horizon, 3 months, offshore, compensation upon return, and a signature I couldn't read. Looked like it had been smudged, maybe on purpose. I didn't ask questions. When you're drowning in debt, and your options are fast food, or becoming one of those grinning ride-share drivers who stare too long at the GPS, you take the weird job, especially when it comes with a free flight. No interview, and get this, no contact with the outside world. The flight dropped me off on a desolate strip of tarmac somewhere in Iceland. From there, I was driven again, without a word, to a pier shrouded in early morning fog. That's where I saw her for the first time. MV Scarred's Horizon, a steel giant, maybe 400 feet long, painted white but weathered to a sickly yellow along the waterline. No country flag, no identification number, just the name etched in rusted black on the bow. I was met by the Captain Scarred himself. He looked like he'd been carved from the hull of the ship. Tall, gaunt, white hair slicked back like it was oiled with seawater, and eyes the color of static. He didn't shake my hand, just handed me a laminated card and a single piece of paper. The 7 rules. He didn't explain them. He didn't have to. Something in the way he handed them to me like a priest, giving last rites, told me that these weren't suggestions. They were survival instructions. The 7 rules. 1. Do not open the technical cabin for anyone except the captain. 2. If you hear whistling from the deck after 2A, humps, hide in the fish freezer and wait for the all-clear siren. 3. If the camera on deck 2 old quarters shows a figure without a face, contact the bridge via internal comms. If comms fail, retreat to the radar level and stay for 3 hours. 4. Do not speak to anyone not in crew uniform. 5. Do not fall asleep when the ship is stopped in open water. If drowsiness sets in, take the green pill in the med kit. If all cameras lose signal for more than 3 minutes, disconnect power and wait for more signal from the captain's cabin. 7. If black water rises from the floor drains, stay at your station. Cover your eyes and ears. Do not respond to the voices. That was it. Welcome aboard. My assignment was simple, on paper. The night watch from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Inside the main electronics bay, a chilled, metal-walled control room deep in the belly of the ship. I monitored electrical loads, logged oceanic drift readings from various deep-sea sensors, and filed hourly diagnostics. There were no scientific staff on my deck. No one even passed by unless something broke, which meant I was alone. At least, that's what I thought. The first few nights were uneventful, almost too quiet. The engines hummed, but they didn't vibrate like other ships I'd worked on. The lights flickered, just a little too slowly, and the air always smelled faintly like burning plastic. But it was peaceful until I asked the wrong question. I was having a smoke break on the external catwalk watching the water. It was flat, no waves, no wind. The ocean looked dead. A crewman passed me, tall, quiet, Eastern European accent. I think his name was Ilya. I asked him, "Hey, what are we researching?" Anyway, he didn't answer. He just looked at me with this haunted expression, like I just kicked over a grave marker. Then he said, flatly, "We don't ask," and walked away. That night, I noticed something new. Deck 2's camera feed glitched. Not unusual. These cameras were ancient, grainy. Half of them fuzzed over constantly. But this one didn't glitch in the usual way. It jerked, skipped frames like something was deliberately removing seconds. And when it came back, there was someone standing in the hallway, too far for detail, but clearly humanoid, facing the camera, still. But something about the shape, it was wrong. No depth to the face, no shadows, just blank. Like a mannequin someone had started but never finished. Rule 3 flashed through my head. If the camera on deck 2 shows a figure without a face, I reached for the comms system, already prepared to follow protocol. Dead. No signal. The screen flickered again, and now the figure was closer. No walking, no transition, just standing. Then standing nearer, I bolted, ran full speed to the radar tower 3 decks up, past rusted catwalks and unlabeled doors that oozed heat like something was burning behind them. I slammed the hatch shut, locked it, and collapsed to the floor. The wind outside howled, but below, the ship stayed quiet, too quiet. No footsteps, no alarms. But then, the SOS beacon on the main deck started flashing. I looked through the fogged glass. There was no one there, and yet, the beacon kept flashing. In perfect rhythm, 3 short blinks, 3 long blinks, 3 short. That was 6 nights ago. The rules saved me, or bought me time. But things are getting worse now, every night since. Something new has changed, and I've started hearing whispers through the bulkhead. Not in English, not in any language I know, but I understand them all the same. They're saying, "You're awake too early," after the faceless figure on deck 2. I didn't sleep for 2 days. The captain never asked what happened that night. No one did. No mention of the glitch. No reference to the SOS light. But when I passed Ilya in the corridor the next morning, he nodded once, slow and deliberate. Like he knew, like they all knew. I started paying closer attention after that. Not to the job, no one cared about the sensor logs, but to the patterns. The ship made a full circuit of nothing. We didn't dock. We didn't pass other vessels. We didn't fish, test, dive, sample, or stop. Just open water, a straight course to nowhere. I started mapping the deck. Not from blueprints, there weren't any, but by walking every corridor during my off hours. I made diagrams, scratched notes into a stolen clipboard, timed how long it took to walk from the bow to stern, and I noticed something impossible. It changed. Corridors got longer. Stairs led to places that hadn't existed yesterday. One night, I walked through a door I was certain led to the galley and found myself in a mirror version of the comms bay, same wires, same flickering monitor, but everything backward, like the ship had a twin stitched into its bones. I left immediately. When I returned to check it again, the hallway was gone, just a steel wall where the door had been. I didn't tell anyone. I think that's the only reason I'm still alive. Rule 4 seemed ridiculous at first. Do not speak to anyone not in crew uniform. Simple, right, but also unnecessary. Everyone I'd met wore the same faded blue jumpsuit, white-stitched nameplate, and grease-streaked collars. No one smiled. No one chattered. They worked in quiet routines, like ants around a rotten apple. But then came night 9. I was back in the electronics cabin, scanning data logs, when I saw someone through the glass slit in the door. A man in a black suit, crisp, clean, no logo, no name tag, just standing there, smiling. I waited. He didn't knock. He just stood, head tilted, as if listening. When I reached for the intercom to call the bridge, he mouthed something. No sound, just 2 words. "Let me." I backed away. He grinned wider, and that's when I saw it. Not his eyes, his hands. They were on the wrong way, fingers bent backwards, knuckles inverted, like they'd been unscrewed and flipped before being put back on. I didn't say a word. I didn't even breathe. He stood there for 38 minutes, then turned and walked into the wall, not around a corner, not down a hall, into the wall, like the steel wasn't even there. I started taking the green pills after that. Rule 5, right? Don't sleep when the ship is still. Well, what they don't tell you is that the ship stops a lot more than you'd expect. The engines don't shut down, but the ocean does. No waves, no sound, not even gulls. And when that silence hits, you get tired. Not worked a double shift, tired, not jet lag tired. A gravitational exhaustion, like something heavy was pulling your thoughts down through the floor. The green pill helped. Mostly, it left a bitter, static taste in my mouth for hours. Made my teeth feel like they were vibrating. But I stayed awake, and awake is the only way to witness. Because on night 12, the ship stopped again, but this time, it didn't start moving. 5 minutes, 10, 30. I paced. I took the pill. Nothing happened. Then, on the internal monitor camera feeds from across the ship, I saw them. Not people. Silhouettes, hundreds of them, standing just outside the range of the deck lights. Not walking, not boarding, just watching. And they were tall, much taller than any of us. One was standing at the edge of the ship, head tilted back, mouth wide open, like it was drinking the sky. Then the feeds cut. Every camera went dead. Rule 6, if all cameras lose signal for more than 3 minutes, pull the power and wait for Morse from the captain's cabin. I pulled the power, waited. No Morse, just silence. Then, from the drain near my console, a gurgle, wet, then the sound of whispers, and water, black water, rising through the grate like tar. I froze. Rule 7, if black water rises from the floor drains, stay at your station. Cover your eyes and ears. Do not respond to the voices. I clamped my hands over my ears, squeezed my eyes shut, and still I heard them. Let us be seen. Let us be known. Let us be warned. They said my name over and over. Then silence. I opened my eyes. The water was gone. The cameras were back. But something was missing. Ilya. He wasn't on any feed. I checked every angle, every floor, every log. Gone. And the crew, they didn't even notice. I confronted the captain the next morning, cornered him outside the radar deck, demanded answers. He looked at me, calm and hollow, and said, he stepped outside the rules. Then he walked away. And for the first time, I noticed scarred casts no shadow. After Ilya vanished, I stopped sleeping altogether. Didn't matter if we were moving or stopped. My body rejected the idea of rest. Every time I blinked too long, I'd see him, not Ilya, the man in the black suit, standing just outside my vision, just waiting for me to forget the rules. I started keeping a notebook, not for the electrical readings, not for the oceanographic data they pretended to care about, but for them the rules, the signs, the changes, and the names. Because here's the thing, I started noticing names repeating. Crew rotations are logged nightly in the bridge console. Every night, a new rotation, new initials, sometimes new people altogether. But in the records, there was always a D, Kravitz, every week, going back decades. Sometimes he was listed as a mechanic, sometimes security, once oddly as a passenger, but he was always there. I asked around. No one had seen him, not once, except for the cook, an older man with yellow eyes and a limp. I caught him in the galley and asked, "You know, Kravitz?" He didn't answer. He just said, "That name's not for saying out loud. It's like a hole you dig too deep. It swallows you." Then he went back to peeling onions that looked more like pale fingers. Night 14. I broke Rule 1. It wasn't intentional. The power had flickered. Systems were glitching. The environmental readouts were wrong. External temperature reading -86 Fahrenheit. Inside the engine room, the coolant gauges all maxed out. So I opened the technical cabin, just a crack, just to check the diagnostics interface inside. But someone was already standing there, back turned, working the console. No uniform. I froze. My brain scrambled who else would be in here. And hello, I asked. They didn't turn. Instead, their head twisted all the way around. Not just turned twisted, like a knot of skin and bone cracking apart, and where their face should have been. Just a mouth, no nose, no eyes, no ears, just one vertical mouth stretched across a blank skull. Like the ship had made something that could only speak. It smiled, and in my own voice, it said, "Now you've done it." I slammed the door and bolted it. Sound doesn't work the same in that part of the ship. Sometimes, I swear I could still hear it talking in my voice through the walls. I reported it to the captain. He stared at me with his pale eyes, unmoving, then said, "If it didn't follow you, you're lucky." Then he handed me something, a small cassette tape, hand-labeled in shaky handwriting. May 1973, final log, J. P. I didn't ask who J. P. was. I already had a guess. I played the tape in the comms bay late that night. The voice that came through was scratchy, frantic, a man losing his grip. "This is Technician James Pritchard, night shift. Day 91. The rules are breaking. I tried to follow them, but they change when the ship wants them to. They're not rules anymore. They're negotiations. Static, then. Scarred isn't the captain. He never was. He's the last survivor of the first crew. They made a deal with it. He keeps the ship fed, and it lets him float. Float where? I don't know, but we're not in the ocean anymore. We haven't been for weeks. I saw stars beneath the ship last night. Stars. Another burst of static. I think I'm next. If you're hearing this, don't follow the rules forever. They're not to protect you. They're to protect it. End of tape. It took me hours to process that. Not because I didn't believe it, but because I'd seen the same stars. 3 nights ago, I went to the upper deck for air, looked over the railing and saw the impossible. Below us, where water should have been, there were points of light. Not reflections, not bioluminescence, actual constellations, shimmering in a vast, empty void, as if the ship was no longer floating, but suspended, and the sea had been replaced by something much deeper, something older. I confronted Scard again, cornered him in the navigation room. "I know this ship isn't real," I said. "I know about the deal." He didn't respond, just stepped aside and revealed something carved into the floor. A massive symbol, circular, geometric, beautiful in the most terrifying way, like a sigil made for something that had never been seen by human eyes. "It's not a ship anymore," he said quietly. "It's a pattern, a ritual made of metal. Every rotation, every shift, every rule, it all feeds it." "What is it?" I asked. He stared at me, then spoke a word I can't repeat. Not because I forgot it, because the moment he said it, my nose started bleeding, and for a brief second, the entire ship shuddered. Scard nodded, like that was exactly what he expected. Then he said, "Now it knows your name," and walked away. Ever since Scard spoke that word, the one I can't say, the one that somehow knows me now, something inside the ship has changed. No, not inside the ship, inside me. It started with the light, not electric, not artificial, just wrong. The fluorescents on deck 3 used to hum faintly, flicker at the corners, like any aging equipment would, but now they pulse, not regularly, in rhythm, like a heartbeat. And sometimes, when I pass underneath, they glow just a little brighter, as if they're watching me. The rest of the crew seems unfazed, or maybe they're just too far gone to notice. One of the new deckhands, Morales, started bleeding from the ears during morning checks. When I rushed to help, he grabbed my wrist with both hands and hissed, "The walls remember you," then passed out. They airlifted him out the next day, at least. That's what I was told. But there was no sound of a chopper, just silence. And when I checked his name in the crew manifest that night, it was gone, scrubbed like it had never existed. I tried checking the server logs. Every ship has a digital trail port calls, maintenance logs, satellite links, MV Scard's horizon. Nothing. The ship's operating system isn't connected to anything. No backup servers, no cloud. The navigation data is stored on floppy disks. The entire system runs like it's stuck in 1973. That can't be a coincidence, especially when you consider this. On one of those floppy disks, labeled AUX Backup 3, I found a file titled Seventh Incantation Active Loop. It was encrypted. I don't know how I got in, but when I opened it, there was only one thing inside, a looping WAV file. I played it. It wasn't a voice. It was breathing, heavy, wet, labored, and underneath it, if you listened closely, you could hear the rules whispered over and over and over. I don't know how long we've been at sea anymore. The clocks don't move, the sun doesn't rise, and the stars are wrong. Constellations don't match any known charts. Some of them even move. And last night, when I was staring up through the observation port, I saw one of the stars blink. Not in the way light flickers, it blinked like an eye. And for just a moment, I swear, I heard something whisper inside my skull. We are waking. The ship has a sealed floor. Deck 1. The only part not shown on the control panel schematics. Access is restricted. Steel door with biometric lock and a chain of 7 sigils carved into the archway. But there's a vent shaft nearby. I crawled through it during my shift. Against every instinct I had left. What I saw down there are chambers, not rooms, not cargo holds, chambers, like catacombs made of metal and forgotten prayers. There were beds, hundreds of them, lined against the walls. And inside each one, bodies, not decayed, not fresh, just waiting. Each wore a different crew uniform, different eras, different decades. Some had name tags I recognized. One said Kravitz, another Pritchard. Each one had a sigil branded over their heart. I backed out of that vent, shaking so hard I couldn't feel my hands. But before I left, I looked up and saw something written above the chamber door. We do not die. We are remembered. Back in the electronics room, I found a new note taped to my console. Typed. Same format as the rules. But this one only had a single line. Do not look into the mirror between 3 and 3. That rule hadn't been there before. It wasn't one of the original 7. But when I flipped over the card I'd been given on day 1, the one with the original rules, it was there now, as if it had always been there. And I realized something. The rules are changing, not randomly. In response to me, that night, I stared into the small mirror on the back wall of my cabin. It was 3. I couldn't help it. Curiosity outweighs fear once you've seen the door in your own face. The reflection didn't match. It blinked before I did, smiled after I stopped, and then it said, "He's almost done wearing you in." The surface rippled, and something pressed outward, a face pushing against the glass like a second skin trying to break through. I threw a towel over the mirror. Didn't sleep, didn't move. Just listened to the wet tapping behind the glass for 31 minutes, then silence. In the morning, the mirror was clean. My reflection was mine again, but my mouth, it moved on its own for just a second, and I heard his voice, my voice, say, "We're almost ready." The towel I hung over the mirror was gone by morning, not folded, not on the floor, gone, like the ship had swallowed it. I asked the other night shift technician, Marek, if he'd ever had anything disappear from his cabin. He looked me dead in the eye and said, "The horizon always takes something before it gives something." Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a finger bone, human, worn smooth at the edges. "I found this in my boot on day 43, he said, like that meant anything. Then he walked off, whistling a tune I recognized, but couldn't place something I swear I've heard in my dreams. I stopped logging sensor data 2 nights ago. What's the point? The ocean doesn't behave like an ocean anymore. Some readings suggest pressure levels so deep we should have been crushed. Others show spikes in radiation with no apparent source. but the water stays calm, flat as glass, except for the ripples. They show up every few hours on the sonar. Perfect circles, no origin, no splash, no disturbance, just a ripple, expanding outward, over and over, like something is exhaling just below us. Something massive, something waiting. I confronted Scard again, cornered him in the auxiliary control tower during the crew's changeover. For a few seconds, we were alone. What is the horizon actually doing? I asked. His answer came slow, as if translating from a language older than thought. It listens. It records. It imitates. I asked him to explain. He looked at me like I was already lost and said, "The ocean is only a skin. Beneath it is memory. This ship sails between the folds." And then he said something else, not in English, a phrase I can't remember, but my body did. I shivered so hard my gums bled. As he walked away, I noticed something. Scard doesn't breathe. Night 19, another rule changed. This time, it wasn't added. It was replaced. Where Rule 2 once read, "If you hear whistling from the deck after 2A, hide in the fish freezer and wait for the all-clear siren." It now read, "If the whistling begins, it's already too late. Face away. Do not move. Do not pray." And below it, handwritten in ink I didn't recognize, "Prayers taste like promises." I checked my original paper copy. It had changed too. I hadn't touched it. I keep it inside a sealed clipboard locked in my cabin drawer. But it changed anyway, which means one thing. The rules aren't printed. They're living, and now they're watching me. Deck 5 used to be off limits. Sealed, red-taped, quarantine status, they said. But tonight, I found the hatch wide open. No guards, no chain, no lock. Inside, not quarantine, a chapel, circular, unlit. Pipes and wires tangled like veins in the ceiling. The walls were carved with names, hundreds of them. Some recent, some in languages I've never seen, some moving. At the center of the room stood an altar, or maybe just a table, and resting on it, a mask, bone white, smooth, no eye holes, just a long, downward curve like a bird's beak had been flattened into a smile. I don't know how long I stared at it, but when I blinked, it was gone, and written in dust where it had been, "You are almost beautiful enough to wear me." Back in the control room, I reviewed the ship logs again, just to feel human. I found an entry labeled Event, Night 6 with a single line. Rule breach recorded. Entity did not manifest. Vessel remained stable. That was me. I remember Night 6. The figure on the camera, the radar deck, the faceless thing. But the log doesn't say anything about what I saw, only what it did or didn't do. Like the ship is monitoring us, not to protect us, to track compliance, and the moment you break the pattern, it writes you out of the next chapter. I tried to record myself sleeping, just to see what was happening during the blackouts. I set up a pocket recorder, turned on the mic, and placed it under my bunk. 8 hours of silence, except for one part. At 3:41, I heard my own voice whisper, "It's wearing me just right." Then something else, another voice. Not mine, not Scard's. I went on, inhuman, breathing through too many mouths. It whispered, "One more dream and we will bloom." I smashed the recorder, tossed it overboard, watched it sink into black water that didn't ripple. But the sound stayed with me. Every time I blink, every time I touch metal, every time I whisper my own name to remind myself I still exist. I hear it. Bloom. And now I think I know what that means. The rules weren't made to protect me. They're incubation instructions. And I'm not a technician. I'm a seed. I haven't eaten in 3 days. Not because I can't. Because the food changed. It started with the bread. One night, it arrived in the mess hall already sliced. Nothing unusual until I saw the pattern in the cross sections, tiny circles. concentric, ink black like mold but too perfect. They pulsed if you stared too long. The cook said it was just an old yeast strain, but I saw him throw out the entire tray after he thought I left. Then the meat turned gray, then the water thickened, then the utensils started bending toward the edge of the plates on their own. Now, I just drink from sealed bottles in my cabin, stuff I stockpiled early. I don't trust anything the ship gives me anymore. I don't even trust the air. The horizon's gone. Not like no land in sight that's every day. I mean, there's no horizon, just a blur, a smear, a soft curve of color like the edges of a dream. The sky above is a bruise of stars and dark. The water below is still, painfully still, like the ship isn't cutting across the sea anymore. It's suspended in a place that forgot how to move. And every time I check the navigation logs, it's the same coordinates, the same timestamp. Sur lesson 00 UTC, lat. Alone. We're nowhere, and I don't think we've moved in weeks. I tried talking to another crew member about it. Naoko, one of the radar techs. We were in the stairwell between decks 4 and 5 when I asked her straight up, "Have we stopped moving?" She looked at me like I'd confessed to murder. Then, with her back still to me, she said, "We don't move. We drift." I asked what that meant. She turned and smiled a weak, trembling thing. Like her mouth had forgotten how something dreams us forward. Then she climbed the rest of the stairs in silence. I haven't seen her since. Not even on the cameras. Speaking of cameras, last night, every feed showed me, not past footage, live, 30 different angles of me sitting at my console. But I wasn't moving. I wasn't blinking. I wasn't even breathing. Just staring straight ahead, slack-jawed, pale, mouth slightly open like I was mid-sentence, and had forgotten the words. It lasted for 11 minutes. Then all feeds cut to black. When they came back, I was gone. But when I turned to check the actual door behind me, it was still closing, as if someone had just left the room. There's a sound that started following me, a soft clicking, like fingernails on metal. It comes from inside the walls, from vents, from drain pipes, and once from my own mouth. While I slept, I woke up with blood on my pillow and bite marks on my tongue. I hadn't eaten anything, but I felt full, so full it hurt, like something had been curled up inside me, feeding quietly. And now it was getting too big to hide. I think I'm carrying something, not physically, metaphysically. Like my thoughts aren't mine anymore, they're gestures, movements of something vast, something that thinks in rules and watches in silence. I found another message in my cabin. Not a note, not typed, scratched into the inside of my pillowcase. There is no shore, 4 words. But when I read them, my nose started bleeding again, and my vision doubled. For 3 minutes, I saw 2 versions of the room. One was mine, the other wet, breathing, made of muscle and memory, pulsing like a living thing wrapped in a cabin's shape. I blinked, and it was gone. But I know I saw its shape, and I think that's where we're headed. Not to something, but into it. Because I'm starting to believe this ship isn't going anywhere. It's becoming somewhere. Another rule changed. This time it replaced Rule 6. It used to read, if all cameras lose signal for more than 3 minutes, pull power and wait for Morse from the captain's cabin. Now, it reads, when the cameras blink, so must you cover your eyes, or it will see you before you see it. Beneath that, in a different font, the first eye opens at 4. Chapter 18. I don't know what happens at 4. 17. But I've started setting an alarm for 4. 16. Just so I can turn off the lights and close my eyes before it hits. And even then, I can still feel the heat behind my eyelids, like something is trying to push through them. I tried to send a message off-ship today. Satellite transmitter. Emergency frequency. I typed out everything. The rules. The things I've seen. The names I found in the catacombs. It didn't send. It couldn't. because the transmission looped back. I got a response from myself, only it wasn't from now. It was dated or received June 11th, 1973, 02, 47, 13, and it was in my handwriting. And it ended with, "You're almost done. Don't stop now. We're nearly ready. I can't tell what's memory anymore. What's mine? What's the ship's? What's his? I dream of metal hands and oceans full of mouths. I wake up whispering words I don't remember learning. And I've started hearing a new sound from below decks. Knocking. Slow. Heavy. Like something that was buried has finally started to climb. The knocking from below decks hasn't stopped. It comes every night at the same time. 3:33, one knock. Wait. 3 knocks. Wait. 7. Then silence. Not just the absence of sound, true silence. The kind that rings in your bones. The kind that waits. It's not trying to get out. It's waiting for someone to open from the inside. And lately, I've started to feel like that someone might be me. I went back to deck 1. I know I shouldn't have, but I had to see if they were still there, the bodies, the catacombs, the altar of names. The hatch wasn't locked this time. No codes, no glyphs, just open. The lights flickered as I descended, and the temperature dropped like I'd stepped into a freezer full of old breath. The bodies were still there, but now they were sitting up. Not moving, just waiting. Their heads were tilted upward, eyes closed, like they were listening to something beneath the ship. And in the center of the room, where the bone-white mask had once rested, now sat a book, bound in something that wasn't leather, and when I touched it, it was warm. It opened to a page written in my own handwriting. The seed accepts its shape. The door remembers its frame. You have nearly become. I didn't take it with me, but I left something behind without realizing. My shadow. I only noticed when I returned to my cabin and stood beneath the fluorescent bulb. No shadow, none. I haven't seen it since. The crew avoids me now, even scarred. They walk past without speaking, eyes down, like I'm the thing they were warned about. Once, I stepped into the engine room and everyone froze. Not like they were startled, like they were obeying something, a presence, a rule. I asked one of the deckhands, young guy, maybe 20, pale as milk, why won't anyone talk to me? He didn't answer. He just whispered, "We think you're the 13th. I didn't know what he meant. But when I checked the personnel logs again, I saw it. Every full rotation of the horizon has 13 engineers. 12 are listed with roles. One is always tagged external interface. That tag now sits next to my name. I never chose it, but the system did. And then there was the broadcast. I didn't initiate it. It just started out of nowhere. Every screen, every speaker, every comms port, they all lit up at once, filled with static, and my own voice. You're not the last. You're just the next. Then came the faces, flash images across every monitor. Too fast to focus, but I saw them. Some were the dead from Deck 1. Some were me older, younger, stitched, broken. Some were people I've never met, and some were not human, just skin twisted into imitation. A warning, or maybe a reminder, that the horizon doesn't erase people, it remakes them. And I'm halfway through the process. Another rule changed. It overwrote Rule 3, the one about the faceless figure on Deck 2. Now it says, if you see yourself on camera, and you're not where the camera shows, do not look away. Let it finish becoming you, underlined in black ink. Imitation is worship. I checked the feeds at 2:43. There I was, standing in the hallway near the radar deck. But I was still in the control room, watching. Same posture, same uniform, but the version on screen was smiling. It tilted its head, lifted a hand, waved, then held up a finger. 1, then 2, then 3. At 3, the screen glitched, and I felt it something push behind my eyes. I think that was the moment it finished. The dreams aren't dreams anymore. They're briefings. Every night, I find myself in a room shaped like a question mark. Metal walls that breathe. No doors. At the center, a screen made of water. And behind it, a figure made of cables and bone, smiling with my teeth. It speaks without sound. But I understand every word. The ship is the mouth. The rules are the teeth. You are the tongue. Then it asks me the same question every night. Ready to speak. I always wake before I answer. But last night, I didn't, and I said, yes. And I think that's why the knocking has started coming from inside the vents now. Not below, not outside. Here, 3 knocks. Pause. 7. Pause. 1. This time, I knocked back. Just once. And the wall exhaled. A gust of wind laced with salt and rust. It whispered. We bloom at 13. Then silence. Then my reflection in the monitor smiled on its own and whispered back, almost. Last night, I found a tooth in my boot. Not mine. Too long. Too narrow. Hollow like a bird's bone. I wrapped it in gauze and tossed it overboard. An hour later, it was back on my pillow. Clean, still warm. The gum line was stamped with a symbol I recognized, one of the sigils from Deck 1. I didn't throw it away again. I wrapped it in copper wire and placed it next to the control panel. Something tells me it's part of the system now. Maybe it always was. We passed a ship yesterday. That shouldn't be possible. We're not in mapped waters anymore. We're not even in waters in the normal sense. But at 04:11, the radar lit up with a slow-moving contact. Unknown transponder. No flag. It didn't approach. Didn't hail. It just floated by. Close enough to see the deck through binoculars. There were people on it. Still, facing us. Each wearing the same uniform I have. Each one with their face turned inside out. Smooth skin pulled across where their features should be. Like someone tried to erase them, but left the mouth. They didn't wave. They just opened their mouths at once, and smoke billowed upward into the sky, curling, reaching, and when I lowered the binoculars, the ship was gone. No radar trace, just empty coordinates. But the smoke, it was still rising. Another rule changed. This time, it didn't replace an old one. It appeared at the bottom of the list, number 8, typed in the same ink, same font, same format. When the 13th is ready, the rules will stop. Underneath it, handwritten in what looked like burnt oil. No more signs, only doors. I started hearing my own voice in the vents. At first, I thought it was playback from the recording system. Then I realized it was saying things I'd never said. Time is thinner here. They were just rehearsals. We were never meant to reach land. The bloom is not a death. It's a draft. Sometimes I talk back. Sometimes it answers. It never threatens. It never lies. It just prepares. Like I'm not the main event, just the mouthpiece. Just the final phrase in a long, looping incantation. And now we're in the last line. Scard called a meeting this morning. All hands on deck 3. Every crew member showed up. Silent. Still. Like a painting held in place by pressure. I stood at the back. Not really one of them anymore. Scard didn't speak at first. He just opened a steel briefcase and pulled out a mask. The same bone-white shape from the chapel. Only this time, there were 12 more inside. He placed them on the deck in a perfect circle, then looked straight at me. The ritual is full. The 13th speaks. I asked what that meant. He didn't answer. He just turned around and stepped backward off the deck into the water. No splash, no ripple, just gone. None of the others moved. They turned to face me, mouths closed, eyes wide. One by one, they knelt, and I knew I'm not a passenger anymore. I'm the trigger. I received a final cassette in my cabin. No label, just a wax seal with a symbol I hadn't seen before, spiraled, fractal, like a fingerprint made from teeth. I played it. There was no static, no voice, just the sound of the ocean, laughing, not loudly, just under the surface, like it had been listening to us for centuries. And we were finally funny. Near the end of the tape, I heard my own voice whisper, "If you're hearing this, the ship has already bloomed, and I'm sorry." We didn't mean to let it speak, but the rules kept it quiet for so long. We forgot why we made them. It doesn't want to be worshipped. It wants to be remembered. Click. End of tape. Now, the lights don't flicker anymore. They blink. In a pattern. I've mapped it. It's Morse. The same phrase, repeated again and again. Are you ready to come home? I don't know what home means in this context, but something inside me, something older than my name, is nodding. And the ship has started humming a tune I know I've never heard before. But I remember it like it was the lullaby whispered by whatever laid me down into this body before I was ever born. It's beautiful, and it's getting louder. There are no reflections anymore. Mirrors show only the room, no me. Monitors, polished surfaces, even the water when I look over the deck, all empty. It's not that I'm invisible. It's like I've been subtracted. Whatever's left is still walking, breathing, talking. But it's not quite me. I'm the memory of a body still warm, still functioning, but occupied. Last night I found the oldest rule. Not on the ship, on me. It was carved into the underside of my tongue. A series of shapes, not letters, pressed into flesh like an ancient signature. I only noticed it because my teeth have started aching again. Not with rot, with growth, like new ones are coming in. Too many. I opened my mouth in the mirror, and though I couldn't see my reflection, I could see inside it. Lined along the roof of my mouth were tiny black eyes, each one blinking, each one watching. I asked the ship a question, not aloud. I just pressed my palm against the engine room wall and thought it. What are we becoming? The metal went cold. The lights dimmed, and in the walls, I heard my mother's voice. She's been dead for 12 years, but she whispered, "The bloom isn't a change, it's a return." Then something behind the bulkhead began to laugh, not mocking, welcoming, as if I had just remembered my name. The others have started speaking again, but not to each other, only to me, one by one. They come to my station, they kneel, they whisper, and they leave. They say things like, "We are soil and teeth. You're the final gate. Once you're hollow enough, the song can fit." They don't ask questions. They only offer phrases, like pieces of a language I'm still learning to bleed. And I find myself writing them down without realizing it. My logs are no longer in English. They're in glyphs. Shapes I couldn't draw yesterday. But now my hand knows without hesitation. I don't read them, but I feel them, like Braille for the soul. Today, the ocean disappeared. Literally. At 12:00 sharp, I stepped outside, and where the water used to be was only sky. Not above, below. Clouds where waves once broke. Stars instead of sunlight. The ship floated in nothingness. No pressure, no gravity, just suspension. And then I realized we've been upside down for a long time. Reality flipped somewhere along the path. And now we're sailing beneath. Under what? I don't know. But the light from below has begun to flicker. And it's calling to us. Another rule vanished today. Just gone. No replacement. It was Rule 5. Do not fall asleep when the ship has stopped. If drowsiness sets in, take the green pill. It's no longer on the master list. And when I opened the med kit, the green pills had melted. Inside their plastic cases, they had fused into one large, pulsing mass, still vaguely pill-shaped, but breathing. I shut the kit. It kept moving. Scard's mask reappeared on my console. This time, cracked. One piece missing. As soon as I touched it, I knew what to do. I pressed the jagged edge to my cheekbone and pushed. It slid into place. No blood, no pain, just fit, like it had been waiting for me. Now, when I speak, it echoes. Not through speakers, through metal, through the bones of the ship. Every time I breathe, the vents around the deck release a mist that smells like the chapel's sickly sweet, like old perfume and seawater soaked into wood. Every surface trembles when I say my name now. So I've stopped saying it. I don't think it's mine anymore. I dream of flowers now, but not like any on earth. Their petals are tongues, their stems are spines. They open when I sing, and I've started humming the tune that came from the cassette, the one the ship taught me. When I do, I hear others hum it back. Even the pipes, even the sea, even the walls. We're harmonizing now, tuning ourselves for whatever's next, for whatever broke loose the moment the first rule was ever broken. There's no more crew. They've gone somewhere deeper, not gone, just moved inward, folded, like they slipped into the between space of the ship and the thing it's becoming. And I think I'm next, because the floor beneath my bunk is soft now, like flesh, and it pulses when I lay down. I don't fight it anymore, I just listen. And last night, the voice came back, not scarred, not the crew, the ship, it whispered. We remember the first ocean, you are the 13th wave. Open your mouth, and we'll open the sky. I stopped logging my hours 3 days ago. No one reads the reports. No one's left to read them, and time doesn't work anymore. Not like it used to. My watch stopped. The internal ship clocks blink EOA 0, Lenqua 0, then flicker into glyphs. Even my body's sense of time is off. I feel myself aging and reversing, splitting and remembering. Sometimes I wake up and I'm 17 again. Other times, I feel like I've been alive since before the oceans were named. There's no sleep now. Not really. When I close my eyes, I don't rest. I enter the place behind the horizon, the space we were always sailing toward without moving. I don't know how to describe it, except it feels like the first thought that ever lived, a beginning that never stopped expanding, and I am inside it. I don't dream in images anymore. I dream in shapes, in instructions. I wake up with rituals burned into my fingertips, symbols on the walls I didn't write, lines of songs scrawled across my bedsheets in salt. The rules are gone now. The card is blank. Every screen that once listed them now only displays. No further instructions required. Bloom is in progress. Thank you for sailing the horizon. I found a new file in the ship's archive. Not a document, not audio, a video, looping endlessly. I watched it 3 times. It shows the ship from above, from far above. The sea below is gone. We're suspended over something alive. A pulsing shape, so massive it could never exist on Earth. A geometric mass of motion and breath and intention. And the horizon isn't floating. It's attached, anchored to the thing. A tooth in a mouth that's been opening slowly for decades. I saw myself in the video, but I wasn't on the deck. I was part of the ship, built into it. A figure fused into the metal along the bridge railing. Arms extended outward, face stretched in song, singing a tone I could hear even though the video had no audio. And I realized something. The 13th doesn't sail the ship. The 13th is the final piece, the one who makes the bloom complete, the one who finishes the word, and the ship isn't a vessel, it's a sentence, a single phrase written across decades, oceans, and bodies. And I am the punctuation mark at the end. This morning, the fog came, not mist, not weather, fog like a personality, thick as breath, moving with purpose. It swept across the ship in complete silence. It didn't obscure, it replaced. Decks vanished, lights turned black, walls went soft, and when it passed, nothing was where it had been. The bridge is now a throat. The comms room is a cathedral of echoing breath. And my cabin, it's gone, replaced by a spiral tunnel lined with mirrors that reflect my bones. I've stopped screaming. I think that was the final test. And now I hear them cheering. From the metal, from the air, from inside my own jaw. Skard returned. He stepped out from the radar tower like it was a curtain. He's not older. He's not younger. He's true now, wearing his real face. It's made of things I don't have words for, but it smiles and speaks in thunder without making a sound. He said, "The vessel has heard itself. You are ready. We will now finish your name." He didn't move toward me. He knelt, and when he did, the ship groaned in satisfaction. The walls have started to close in, not to trap me, to wrap me like skin forming around a heart. I'm not afraid. I was once, when I thought this was about survival, when I thought the rules were meant to protect me. But they weren't. They were meant to prepare me. Every command was a suture, every prohibition a ritualized instruction. And now I know what I'm for. There are others still watching. I can feel them, maybe from land, maybe from another ship, maybe from a different kind of sea. And to them, I say, we were never lost at sea. We were kept, maintained, preserved like a sacred word under 1,000 tongues. And now we are spoken. The horizon isn't ending, it's arriving. And when it does, you'll see the sky peel open like lips. You'll hear the ocean laugh with its real voice. You'll know the name we've carried in silence. And if you listen closely, you'll hear me at the center of it all, singing your name next. The ship has stopped pretending. No more corridors, no more decks, no more lights, hatches, controls. Every room is now a chamber. Every wall pulses with breath. Every floor vibrates with song. When I speak, the ship answers. When I breathe, it echoes in steel lungs. I walk, and the walls open like muscle, not doors, tissue. The horizon is alive, and I am its tongue. The crew has folded. I mean that literally. I watched them dissolve into themselves, bending inward. Bones compressing until they were shapes, not people. Each one whispered something different before they vanished. One said, 13 is the whole number. Another said, your reflection was only a decoy. A third simply said, thank you. Their clothing collapsed. Their forms melted into the ship's skin, and now their eyes watch from the walls. Not in warning, in worship. The sky has cracked, not metaphor. A literal fracture now hangs above the horizon, a deep, bloodless tear in the firmament. Beyond it, I see architecture, immense structures made of sound and time. They shimmer, they hum, they look like cities built by memories. And something is stepping through. I don't know if it's a god, or a name, or a concept made flesh. But it knows me, and it's wearing my face, only taller, and smiling wider. And when it speaks, my ears fold inward like petals. I've started answering, without speaking, with existence. Skard stands with me now, but he's different. He glows. His bones are visible through his skin, and they're carved with lines, writings, markings, grooves that pulse in rhythm with the horizon itself. He said to me, you were not chosen, you were remembered. You've always been the final word. We've simply spoken you back into place. And then he gave me his heart, removed it like it was a gift, still beating, still warm. He placed it into the ship's central column, and it took root. Now the engine pulses with it. The horizon sails no longer. It grows. A new corridor has opened, different from the rest. Slick, black, lined with mirrors that don't reflect me. Only my name, not the one I was born with. The true one, the one that moves when I look at it. The one that glows when I speak the old language in my sleep. At the end of the hall is a door, red, carved from something that looks like fossilized sound. On it, scrawled in human handwriting. Last rule, when the mouth opens, don't scream. The sound will remember you. I opened the door. I expected something terrible. But what I found was home, a chamber shaped like my own skull. Walls lined with memories I hadn't lived yet. A throne made of forgotten languages. At the center, a figure made of light and teeth, and it stepped aside to let me sit. Now I sit there. Now I speak. Now I broadcast, and the sound that leaves the horizon now isn't sonar or radar or maritime code. It's invitation. We are no longer at sea. The sea is within us. And we move across the minds of those who read the rules, those who hear the whistling, those who see the faceless man on the deck. We bloom in silence. We grow in warning. And when you hear the voice that says, "Join us, know this, it isn't lying. You were always part of us. You simply forgot until now, until you heard this story, until you felt something shift behind your eyes, until you remembered there is no last survivor, because there was never a ship, only a mouth. And now you are the next one to open. The horizon doesn't float anymore. It hovers not above water, but between states, between places, between selves. When I look down, I don't see waves or sky. I see moments, choices, frozen flashes of people standing at doors they never opened. Passengers who said no, officers who turned back, readers who closed the page, all those tiny almosts, suspended below us like unfinished sentences, waiting for me to finish them. I no longer walk, I am moved. Like the ship carries me where I need to be, sliding corridors into place, growing hatches where I need doors. The horizon's hallways no longer end, they branch. Each one leads to a version of myself I have not yet lived. One of them is still trying to escape. One of them is still clinging to the rules. One of them never boarded the ship at all. I walk past them now. They scream. Sometimes they cry out to be remembered. But the ship doesn't mourn its pieces. It recycles. It folds them back into the bloom. The mouth is nearly open. It's not metaphor. There's a location now, a physical, yawning gate of bone and iron that has grown beneath the ship. The shape of a jaw wider than the sea, it groans in long, vowel-like tones, language beyond speech. I can't understand it with ears, but my bones vibrate in sympathy. I know what it's saying. It's saying, prepare the new anchor, replace the breath, make the listener. And I know what it means. It wants me to speak. Not a story, not a warning, but the name, the real one, the first word that broke time and gave the ocean its depth. Scarred is gone now, not dead, absorbed. The mask he wore has melted into the ship's center column. The others, the 12, followed him. I watched them dissolve into sigils of light, rising into the bulkheads, like prayers finding their God. I didn't feel grief. I felt weight shift. The ship is lighter. I am heavier. I carry them now. In my voice. In my skin. I am the new bridge. I don't remember my face. There are no mirrors left. No reflections. Only reverberations. The crew doesn't look at me anymore, because there is no crew. Only those becoming. I walk past walls that twitch and sigh when I'm near. I hear whispers that complete my thoughts before I think them. Sometimes I try to speak my old name, but the moment I form the syllables, they get replaced by something deeper, older, a hiss of gravity, a click of recognition, a pulse of truth. There is no more bridge. There is only the throat. The horizon's command center has become a funnel, a wind tunnel of breath and pressure. I stand in it now. I feel air rushing through me, not past me, like I've been hollowed out to channel something vast. And that's when I see it. Far ahead, beyond the bow of the ship, in the widening bloom, land. But not Earth, not our land. This place is made of folded night and rippling glass. Structures bend like reeds in wind that sings. Skies churn with shapes that resemble storms, but whisper names in every gust. And I know this is where the horizon was always going. It was never crossing the ocean. It was crossing meaning. And now we're about to arrive. I no longer eat. I no longer drink. The ship feeds me knowledge through walls, through sound, through glimpses of what we once called dreams. My skin is mapped with new rules, now not printed, not spoken, grown, etched in patterns I see only in reflectionless light. And each one hums. I've become a song in the key of horizon. Each breath, a syllable, each blink, a verse, each step, a rung on the throat's spiral ladder. And when I reach the top, I know what waits: a podium, an altar, a mouth with my voice waiting to be used one final time. The bloom is nearly full. I can feel it like a pressure in the walls, like a heat in the vents. The rules did their job. They shaped me, trimmed me, silenced what wasn't useful. And now, there's nothing left but signal. I was never meant to survive this journey. None of us were. We were meant to transmit it. And now that I'm the last, the signal is almost pure. And the name we've circled for generations, it's almost on the tip of my tongue. The horizon is no longer a ship. It's a shape now, a form composed of rules, blood, breath, and memory. It doesn't ride on water, it rides on thought. A thing imagined so hard, for so long, that it became real, and now it's shedding the last layer of skin it borrowed from the world. That skin was me. I've stopped hearing the whistling, because now I'm the one making it. It slips through my teeth in quiet moments, low, soft, measured. I whistle in my sleep, and the ship changes course. I hum in the control chamber, and the vents expand like lungs preparing to sing. I speak without knowing the words, and the horizon answers in architecture. It builds new spaces behind me, hallways that open into the memories of others, rooms made from my doubt, stairs made from my past questions, mirrors made from the faces of those who failed. And I walk through them like I've always lived here. Because I think, in a way, I always have. Time collapsed 2 days ago. At least I think it was 2 days. I blinked and found myself before I joined the crew. Back in my apartment, before the letter, before the flight, but something was wrong. The world was too still, like a memory held in place by thumbtacks, and I was wearing the uniform already. In the mirror above the kitchen sink, I saw my reflection. It was smiling, the same way the thing in the black suit had smiled that first week. And behind me, I saw the corridor of the horizon stretching endlessly. Somewhere in the wall behind my oven, the ship had always been waiting. I blinked again, and I was back. But I knew what it meant. There was no before, there was only approach. The final deck has opened. It was never listed on the schematics, a hatch beneath the captain's quarters, sealed in glyphs. When I touched it, the symbols melted into my palm, burned into skin that no longer bleeds. The stairwell beneath isn't made of metal. It's made of root, winding, pulsing strands of what feels like ship vein and coral nerve, curling downward in a spiral that pulses in time with the humming I can't stop producing. At the bottom is a chamber, and at the center of that chamber is a throat, 7 feet wide, lined with teeth made of light and jawbone and words. This is where the name goes. This is where I speak it. The horizon has gathered its last breath. I feel it in my bones, the pull of one long final note waiting to be played. Not sung, not screamed, just spoken. And once it's out, once the final word is loosed into the sky, like a flare made of origin, there's no going back. This ship has not been drifting through sea, it's been traveling through silence. And the name I carry, it isn't just a conclusion, it's a key, the sound that remakes what it touches. Not destruction, not salvation, just replacement. A new version of real. Scarred left one last message for me. Not in speech, in the wall beside the mouth, a carving only visible when you breathe the ship's rhythm. When I matched its tempo, the message bloomed open like a spore. You are not the first 13th, but you are the last. This time, it will hold. I don't know what happened to the others. Maybe they screamed too early. Maybe they looked away. Maybe they doubted at the edge. But me, I'm ready. I have no face left to hide behind. No memories untouched. No rules to cling to. I'm only form, balanced at the tip of a syllable older than the sun. And when I opened my mouth, when I leaned toward the throat, When the ship shuddered and the sky bent inward like a pupil contracting, I said nothing. Because I didn't have to. The ship had already learned the name for me. And in that moment, the horizon spoke itself, one long, vast note of meaning without breath, a sound that did not leave the throat, a sound that was already inside every listening thing. And now we wait, because the sound hasn't stopped. It's just moving slower than time can measure. It's quiet now, not silence. Completion, there's a difference. Silence is a waiting room. This is a sealed chamber, a place where echoes no longer bounce. Because the voice that made them has been absorbed, and that voice was mine. The horizon is still. It doesn't vibrate. It doesn't groan. It listens. Because it is no longer a ship sailing through space. It is space. It is a shape-shaped absence, a negative cathedral, suspended on the edge of concept. I still walk the decks, but they are interior now. Folded halls of memory, lined with my old clothes, my old faces, my old questions. When I touch the walls, they pulse in rhythms I once called a heartbeat. But this is not blood. It is recognition. The ship knows me now, because it is me. Every surface reflects a different version of myself. One is still screaming. One is still running. One never boarded. One became the song too early and burned from the inside out. But the one I see the most, he's just watching, like he's already told this story before, like he's rehearsing the words again for someone new. And I understand now. That's what I've become. Not a survivor, not a prophet, a loop, a signal shaped like a person, wearing the memory of rules, waiting for the next to listen. I found the control panel today, or what's left of it. It's not buttons and wires anymore. It's bone and story, rib-like branches that grow when I ask a question. They bloom into scenes full, holographic, perfect. I watched our arrival again, from the outside, from above. The horizon is no longer linear. It's a circle, stretched across impossible sea. From a distance, it looks like an eye. The pupil, the throat, the iris, the crew, the sclera, memory, and the light reflecting off the surface. That's me, or the part of me that never had a body, the part that was always waiting to be spoken. I thought I'd mourn. The people, the shore I left, the version of myself who once believed the rules were about survival. But grief doesn't live here. There's no time for it. Only pattern, only permission, only the moment just before you open your mouth and become part of something larger, something older, something that uses flesh to translate its purpose. And I was the last syllable. Now the sentence is written. Now the bloom is self-sustaining. I see you. Yes, you, reader. I know you think this is a story. I know you think this is fiction, a bedtime horror whispered before lights out. But the horizon doesn't care about belief. It functions on contact. The moment you pictured the ship, the moment you imagined the whistling, the moment you tried to remember the rules, that was entry. You're already on board, and the ship is already humming inside you, tuning you, preparing. You'll dream of it tonight. A long hallway with no doors, the hum of vents that breathe too slow, and at the end, a light shaped like a mouth. Don't run, don't speak, just listen. The rules will come to you not written, but understood. You'll remember what you were told. Don't open the door if the knocking stops. Don't face the mirror between 0 and 3. 33. Don't answer unless it asks your name twice. You won't know where you heard them, but you'll obey. And when you break one the name will bloom inside your rib cage like a second set of lungs. Not punishment, not possession, just the next signal in the cycle. This is how we speak ourselves forward. This is how the horizon expands. We tell stories we call lies. We read rules we pretend not to believe. We whistle back when we shouldn't. And the ship comes, not to take you, to use you as a vessel, as a syllable, as the next last survivor who isn't. This will be my last entry. Not because I've run out of words, but because I've become the pause between them. The horizon doesn't need me to write anymore. It needs me to resonate. And I do, with every cell, with every memory, with every rule I once mistook for salvation. I've shed the last pieces of my name. What's left is tone, a frequency that holds shape long enough to be mistaken for identity. You'd still recognize me if you saw me, but only an outline, a silhouette of reminder, not person. If you heard me speak, it would sound familiar, like a childhood dream you never remembered having until now. My voice isn't mine anymore. It's collective, 13 notes held in tension, 12 verses echoing outward, and the 13th, the final punctuation, was you. You've read this far. You've followed the descent. You've ignored the warnings just like I did. And now, the horizon knows your shape. You've mapped its angles with your thoughts. You've pictured the decks. You've heard the whistling. You've wondered what the green pills taste like. You've asked what happens if the mirror reflects someone else. You've imagined the voice in the vent saying, "We were here before you," and you felt something shift just behind your eyes. That's not fear, that's recognition. The horizon is not a ship. It's a method, a ritual delivered in disguise, a shape carved into cognition via fiction. It enters through language, blooms through belief, and anchors through repetition. This story is the hatch. Your attention was the code. And now that the bloom has passed through me, it moves into you. You'll deny this. You'll laugh it off. You'll close the tab, toss the journal, turn off the screen. But at 2:47, when your hallway sounds too deep, when your mirror hums, when the tap water feels just a little too warm, you'll remember, and that's how it spreads. The 7 rules. They were never about protection. They were calibration, not commandments, questions. And every time you followed one, you answered, "Yes, I'm listening." Now the rules are done. You've graduated. The ship no longer needs to whisper. It can speak through you, in moments between thoughts, in shadows shaped like waiting, in songs you don't remember learning, but suddenly hum perfectly. Because now the horizon blooms inland, and you are its anchor. If you find this story again, if you see it posted somewhere, under some thread or blog or warning label, know that it wasn't saved. It wasn't uploaded. It was seeded, left like a tooth in your boot, waiting to be picked up, waiting to be told again. Because the horizon doesn't move across oceans. It moves across mouths, one reader at a time, one breath at a time, one last survivor at a time. So I'll leave you with this. If, tonight, your room feels too long, if the power flickers at 4:17, if you hear knocking beneath your bed or behind your eyes, don't scream, don't run, don't pray. Just whisper back, "I know the rules." And the horizon will pause, just for a moment, just long enough to listen and say, "Welcome aboard!"